Well, thanks very much indeed. Welcome to the channel. My name is Jim Ferguson, and what a busy week it's been. My goodness, from members of the British Parliament to iconic British pop stars to top investment bankers to expert doctors to people who were recently raided by armed police and arrested and handcuffed. It's been an eventful week, I can tell you. There's been a lot of interviews done, a lot of very, very interesting people who've come on the channel. And they all bring their own unique character. And I'm deeply humbled by many of them whose knowledge in their own special subjects is just second to none. And I'm very, very appreciative of the people that do come on for interview, especially the people who are talking about things that have impacted themselves or their communities in ways that most of us would never even think of, you know. And one of those people was, I have to say, was Barry Young from New Zealand, the whistleblower who blew the lid on the New Zealand government, what was going on there. And one of the things that struck me when this actually happened, but it also struck me that their whole overreaction to this story suggested that they had something that they really wanted to hide. And it was an honour and a privilege to have him on the show, you know, and talking about the things that he had experienced, the dirty tricks, the smear campaigns, and all of these types of things. And I mean, Andrew Bridgen, who's another very well-respected member of the British Parliament, he's been going through exactly the same thing with these dirty tricks campaigns. But what they don't seem to realise is that the truth has a habit of getting out, and people are in fact waking up to the truth and what's really been going on. And I thought it was interesting that while all of this is happening, the lying mainstream media are doing their best not to talk about these big issues and these big stories. And it's interesting to note when you speak to people from other countries, it becomes very clear that in fact the same style of censorship and the same style of oppression is taking place in New Zealand, as it is here in the UK, as it is in Canada and France, and virtually everywhere that you find globalist infested politicians, especially those in government. And you know, it's always a privilege to speak to people from other countries who share their views and share their thoughts. I was speaking to Tony Lowes from Canada just a little while ago. I think it's his podcast with me is already up and running. I'll be sharing that shortly. What a nice guy he is, you know, and just really wonderful people from around the world. And I'm constantly reminded of the fact that we live in uncertain times. There's no doubt about it. What we've gone through over the last 3 to 4 years is unprecedented in human history. Here we are in March now, 2024. About 8 months away from an election in the United States, which could be, how could we put it, world-defining perhaps. I mean, you know, what happened with the last election was big news. What happens with this coming election in the United States could be even bigger news. And it seems to me that they're going out of their way to try and stop Donald Trump from even running as president. And yet he's monstering the states that he's standing in. I think we could be witnessing something spectacular happening in just the next few months in America. And when I was over there at the tail end of last year, just a few months ago, I met some incredible people across 8 different states from North Dakota all the way down to Alabama. And I have to say I very much enjoyed my trip there. But it's becoming clear that we are living in increasingly turbulent and unstable times. And I think that one of the key messages that I want to give to you for consideration this weekend, as in British time we're going into Saturday evening here, and that is to say to you, look, there's a lot of fear out there, there's a lot of worry. People are worried about their jobs, they're worried about the economy, they're worried about their savings, they're worried about rising inflation, they're worried about war, and they have got good reason to be worried because there are certain people, especially within the globalist orders, that seem to want to go to war with Russia. And I've always been of the opinion it's not the people that are the problem, it's the politicians that are. those who control the politicians are an even bigger problem. And our politicians are most definitely controlled. I think at least half the cabinet in the UK are World Economic Forum members. Why is that? Why is half the cabinet in Trudeau's administration members of the World Economic Forum? The same in France with Macron's government. The same with the previous administration, Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. Australia, Dan Andrews, they're all connected to the World Economic Forum. Why is that? And is that good enough? I had a very interesting conversation with Mads Palsvig, who is from Denmark. He is a former investment banker, a trader at the top echelons of Credit Suisse, Stanley Morgan and Barclays. And if anybody knows how the system works, it's him. It was a very interesting conversation, and he's of the opinion that we might need to change the global system, make it fairer for everybody, because he's recognized for many years that there's a tiny, tiny minority at the very, very top that control all the wealth and all the resources on this planet, and they don't like sharing it with anybody else. Is that good enough, though? Can a new global order truly satisfy everybody? I don't think so. And maybe they're going to get their new global order, but maybe they won't be the ones that's running it. Maybe it'll have to be other people that do. And maybe that will be for the greater good of humanity. Maybe they're going to get their new world order, but it won't be actually what they want. So it's interesting when you speak to people who have been involved in these different types of things, and you learn from them great depths of knowledge and information when you do. So I'll be certainly looking to speak to Mads Palsvig again in the near future, because he's talking about a whole new system and he knows how to do it. And we've spoken off camera about it. It's a lot to do with doing away with taxation, doing away with corporation tax, doing away with income tax, these types of things. And I don't know about you guys. I think most of you that follow me here on this channel are fair-minded people. And I think if we can get an end to poverty, get an end to the struggle out there, take the resources and be a little bit fairer with them, we would all be a lot happier. We would also be a lot happier knowing that there weren't politicians trying to drive us towards war. And we are talking potentially nuclear weapons here. So whether or not we can actually overturn the system and get good people with good governance into those positions or not remains to be seen. In the meantime, Freedom Train International is forging ahead. Freedom Train International is a freedom movement. We are a peaceful organisation. We want to unite people all around the world, a little bit like what the Tea Party did in the United States of America when they formed 20, 30 years ago. And, they rose to prominence, and they were a grassroots movement, much the same as we are here. And I want to personally thank all of the people who are contributing to Freedom Train International. Now, we're trying to hold the door open as long as we can, but the doors are going to have to close probably within the next 6 to 8 weeks, because the amount of information that we're preparing to put on there cannot be done until we actually have the members fully on side and on board with that. What I mean by that is we're going to be giving advice about what we believe is coming further down the road. Now, we can't see into the future any more than anybody else can, but we can have a very, very good idea. And the people who are involved with Freedom Train International are experts in their own right. So what I would say to you is try to understand that we are moving into great periods of uncertainty all around the world. It will affect each and every one of us when these things start to happen. And it's crucially important that in light of what the globalists are trying to do in terms of censorship, for example, the passing of C-63 in Canada, censorship bills. I mean, we know, for example, that the last World Economic Forum summit in Davos was focusing purely on misinformation and disinformation, as they like to call it. But there's a real problem with that, because what they're really saying is they don't want people who don't have the same ideas as them to speak about them publicly. So they're looking at ways of getting their proxies, the people in charge of these governments, like Trudeau in Canada, to pass those laws and stop people from speaking out and telling the truth and what's really going on. And that's why they react so vociferously to people like Barry Young in New Zealand when he comes out and presents that type of data. They don't like it one bit. Well, Freedom Train International believes in freedom. We believe in freedom of speech, freedom of bodily autonomy, freedom of choice, freedom of movement. We don't believe that we should be told and restricted as human beings. We have a right to go where we want to go, do what we want to go, and be what we want to be. And if we want to take a medical experiment, that's your choice. We respect that. But if you don't, likewise, we respect your choices in that as well. So what we really want to do is ensure that we're making every effort to get people fully up to speed with what they need to do and to be as prepared as they possibly can be. None of us know what challenges lie ahead. If we are facing another war in Europe, then that's going to cause big problems. There will be supply chain shortages. There could be shortages of medicine. There could be shortages of food, goods and supplies. So you need to be ready for that. You don't want to be getting caught up in the turmoil of a supermarket where everybody's scrambling to buy things and risking getting hurt or injured in the stramash of it all, you know. You want to be prepared ahead of time in moderate amounts, just so that you've got enough to keep you out of harm's way when the chaos is reigning. These are the kind of things that we're going to be teaching you how to do, what to start with, where to go, how to prepare and plan ahead. And these are things that the globalists may not want you to know about. They don't want you to know the truth, and they don't want you to be not afraid. In fact, on the contrary, they want you to be afraid. Well, if you're prepared, you're not afraid. If you're prepared mentally, physically and spiritually, you will not be afraid at all. Well, that's not what the globalists want. So those of us that are trying to teach and train and educate people for what might be coming slightly further down the line, well, we're seen as persona non grata as far as the globalists are concerned. So we need to have those protections in place, ensure that we're not fully public facing, because if we are, we can be attacked by them. So becoming a member of Freedom Train International is crucially important. And if you do that, you're guaranteed that within the next 6 to 8 weeks, when those doors come together and we start to really train people as to what's coming and how to prepare, then you're going to be safe in the knowledge that you're within a community that cares, that listens and supports each other regardless of where we are in the world. The most important thing is that we're all human beings and we can learn from each other. What happens in New Zealand might be slightly different to what happens in Canada or the United States, or what happens in Ireland or Germany, but we're all still people, and what's affecting you there in those different countries affects us all wherever else we are as well. And that's one of the things that I found out when I was setting up Freedom Train International. It took a period of about 13, 14 months to do that. And I engaged in a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of interactions with people in the United States and Canada and other places around the world. And it became very clear that actually the people in those respective countries are going through exactly the same challenges that we all are. So the key message here for you to consider this weekend is preparation and resilience. You need to start thinking about that for yourselves and your families and your communities, wherever you are, because there's going to be a need for it in the not too distant future. As we go through 2024, let's take that time to get ready and prepared and increase our knowledge, increase our resilience and preparedness levels. Because as we move into 2025, we yet once again might find great turmoil at that period of time. Let's hope not, but let's prepare just in case. So I want you all to have a great weekend. Thanks to all the new followers who have come onto the channel. It's great to see you all coming in, and I wish you all the very best for this, and take care. This is Jim Ferguson. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye.